Hey everybody, Jack here down in Naples, Florida, but by the time you are watching this, I'm probably driving north heading to Mackinac to join up with my team up there, which I'm really excited about, kicking off spring up there up north. But anyway, down here we just had a major pouring wild tropical rain, and now it's kind of clearing off here. I'm out at my shop, and the crews are getting rolling and getting going on the day. But wanted to take a moment to do our monthly Q&A session with you guys. Rachel has printed out all of my questions here for me, and I've taken a whole bunch of notes on them and stuff, so we'll try to dive in and hopefully answer the questions. Thank you so much for submitting all these. We're getting a ton of questions, so obviously there's some interest in that, and it's been pretty fun. So we're going to continue to do it once a month to answer all your questions. If I don't get to them this month, you know, maybe we'll get to them next month, or just submit them again, or you know, just keep bugging us because we love it. It's fun. So anyway, we continue to get lots and lots of questions about hydrangeas. As many of you know, I use hydrangeas like crazy up north, obviously, especially on Mackinac, and lots and lots of different varieties all over northern Michigan that we use, and because they're great. We are going to do a whole hydrangea video, or a series of videos specific on hydrangeas, including their propagation, you know, their growing, the history of hydrangeas, and their use in landscape and gardens and stuff. We're planning a really, really cool series on hydrangeas, so stay tuned. We'll get to that. Also, lots and lots of questions on AquaPots. Thank you for that. We're super excited about the support, and the sales thus far of AquaPots has been going great. Link down below. So there's going to be a link below this video here with a locator where you can type in your zip code and find out where your nearest retailer is that is selling AquaPots. So give them a call. See which ones they have, what they have in stock, and everything like that. Support your local retailers first. We also are going to have them online. So at provenwinners.com, we're going to be selling AquaPots online, where they'll be able to be ordered and shipped right to your door. That should be up and running within a week or two. Stay tuned for that. We'll definitely make an announcement here. Proven Winners will be making an announcement about it, and on Instagram and stuff like that as well. So AquaPots are you know, hitting stores across the country already this spring, and it's been really great. So that's that. And the other thing we're getting a lot of questions on is the Grand Garden Show. Upcoming this summer, plans are still on for a great Grand Garden Show in late August. The show, you know, completely as scheduled, is still on as is. So we're planning a fantastic show and really, really looking forward to it. Okay, so without further ado, we have quite a few questions to get through here today. First and foremost, in regards to design, we got a question on tips on how to start a cottage garden. Well, if you're starting, you know, kind of from scratch, and you've really got a blank canvas, maybe a whole, say, a corner of your yard you want to turn into a real cottage garden. Really, first and foremost is making sure you've got really, really good drainage. Most plants that are kind of the signature cottage garden look require and thrive in really good drainage. So more of a gravelly kind of soil, obviously, that we fortunately have up on Mackinac Island, but really, really good drainage is going to be key for a lot of the perennials that that thrive and look really good in a cottage garden. Thick, you know, clay soils that don't drain all that well. There's still a lot of great plants that are clay busters and can handle it, but you won't have as kind of classic a look as that cottage garden that we're all, you know, looking for and talking about, with delphiniums and ornamental lilies and echinaceas and, you know, dahlias and roses and stuff. But so drainage is really key, making sure you have good drainage, either built in or, you know, raising up a bed and accommodating for some slope off underneath if you do have some real clay soils. And we can get into how to build drainage into a garden bed. later. But most importantly is successional planting. Successional planting is designing and planning so that once something blooms and does its thing, as we all know, perennials do not bloom, typically all spring, summer, and fall. There is a season when a plant looks absolutely stunning, and then sometimes they start to go and go into dormancy, or just kind of call it quits for the season. So there are spring, summer, fall blooming plants that need to be planted successionally so that you have a garden that is blooming with a certain color, a certain texture, a certain look during the spring. As those plants fade, you've got it designed so that the next series in your succession is coming up and covering those without a tremendous amount of maintenance. So the most important thing is you want to make sure you have that seasonal shift without big holes. So don't get super excited just because you love one plant and plant a huge swath of it without a successional plant that's going to take over. Because if you have something like, even bulbs, like if you have a big swath of tulips or daffodils or something that look awesome right now or are looking really good for spring, and then you've got this gigantic hole, you're either forced to put in a lot of annuals in there, or you're forced to go out and buy new plants and stuff all the time to fill that space. So successional planting, making sure that knowing that something is going to fade in the spring, you've got something coming up for a early summer, midsummer, fall bloom that's going to continue to take that space. We'll get more into this on site in some gardens when I'm laying out and designing gardens, and we'll really talk about specifics and plants and stuff. We'll do some more videos on that this summer up on Mackinac, where we do a lot of cottage gardens for sure. So anyway, another question here says, when are you leaving for the island? A lot of questions, a lot of interest on the island and making sure that my team and I are able to get to work safely. Thank you for all those concerns and all of that love. We are able to work and safely, and we are following all guidelines and being extremely safe and taking care of each other. As I said earlier, while you're watching this, I'm probably driving up, heading up there to get working with my team, but they've already been going for a little bit already. Another question is, what are 3 big projects that the team and I have planned for this upcoming year? We've got a lot of really awesome projects for this summer season. One that I'm really excited about showing you guys is a whole new barn and horse paddock that we're going to be landscaping around, but it's the first time I've really built a horse paddock from scratch, and all the drainage that's going to be accommodated from underneath and the different layers of gravels and sands. We're building the fence. We're doing all of the electrical tape or electric fence work for the horses, and lighting and irrigating different. There's going to be grass areas and sand areas and stuff of the turnouts for the horses, and irrigating all that so that the compaction and everything stays nice and tight for the horses. So it's going to be a really cool project. So we'll definitely show you guys some of that as we work on that one. We're going to be doing several cottage overhauls, so we'll be getting into some cottage gardens for sure. Some renovations and remodel work that are happening on some really cool cottages on the island that will be then sweeping into landscape. So we've got several of those going this summer. And then 2 really good sized projects that are totally blank canvases. The houses were just built, so they're new homes, new builds on Mackinac Island that we're going to be starting from scratch. I mean, there's not even a blade of grass on these lots at all. So that's really exciting to be starting completely from nothing and doing all the hardscape, irrigation, lighting, everything on some projects. So I'll take you through that process and how we really design a Mackinac landscape with some of those. So that'll be super fun. How do you deal with rodents in the gardens on the island? Yeah, rodents. The 2 biggest rodent problems we have are with voles, which are nasty little mole-like critters, and bunnies. Voles are a bugger because when we have a good snow year, they travel underneath the snow, so hawks and eagles and stuff cannot get to them. So they travel and burrow through the grass, and perennial gardens especially under the snow, and they, as many of you know that have had problems with voles, they dig down and they eat the roots of perennials. So in the springtime, you'll see your clumps of daylilies and stuff starting to come, and they'll even green up a little and start looking like they're coming back, and then they won't do anything. You go to divide that daylily or find out what's going on, and there's just no roots. I mean, there's nothing underneath it whatsoever. They kind of just chow it, you know, from below. Very, very frustrating. So voles are a pain in the booty. We do trap voles and relocate them sometimes to the lake, but they're not good garden friends. So we relocate them far, far into the woods where they can live a happy life with the hawks and eagles. The bunnies are a real problem though. There's, you know, sometimes the population of bunnies on the island can really skyrocket. You know, and then fortunately behind that we get some coyotes and foxes and eagles and hawks that take that population back down. But the bunnies are a bugger. The one thing that has worked well for me is I have a shepherd mix mutt dog named Titi, who's a sweet, sweet girl, but she does shed a fair amount. So we take a furminator, we comb her like crazy, bag up her hair into Ziploc baggies, and then I take that hair and like tuck little tufts of her hair around a landscape or a garden. The bunnies smell Titi and think that she is this bunny, you know, killing machine, which she used to be really fast and agile when she was young. So she must still have the scent of this amazing killer. But now she's 13 and a bunny would probably hop right over her while she sleeps. But they don't know that. So it does seem to work pretty well. So if you have a dog that might have that scent in their hair, that does work pretty well to put some tufts around. It works for us. Anyway, last question on Mackinac. What's the most challenging aspect of gardening on the island? Well, obviously Mackinac is motor vehicle free, so almost all of our work that we do is by horse and bicycle. So we are, you know, riding bicycles around, and those of you that have been following us for a little while have seen that in some of our videos and stuff, and you'll see more of that this season as we do more video work. But so yeah, obviously horse and bicycle slows things down, makes it a little harder. But I would say logistics are the most challenging thing, because we're dealing with you know, trucking up to the island across a bridge and everything else, and then, you know, putting all of those materials to build big landscapes and gardens on a boat, barging it over, then coordinating, loading it onto horse drays, which is like a flatbed wagon, hauling it up to the site, and then having our people there, our guys, to unload and get it installed. So the logistics and all the people involved in making Mackinac landscape and garden work happen as fast and efficiently as we're able to do is definitely the most challenging part about it. But huge kudos to all the people that we do work with, because they do make it possible. All right, so now we're gonna shift from Mackinac questions and get into a few others that are, you know, mostly Michigan based. I guess a lot of our Michigan followers out there are getting excited to get out in their gardens after a long winter and after being cooped up because of the pandemic and everything. So I know that we're certainly excited to get out and dig the soil. This question coming in would be, what are some good ground covers that do not choke out other perennials for Zone 3? So somebody way up north, Zone 3, dealing with some cold winters. My favorite ground cover for more of the shade is sweet woodruff. I just love it. I think it's the most dainty, beautiful little ground cover. It's very vigorous, it spreads, but it's gentle enough that that other perennials like astilbes and hostas that will handle your Zone 3 winters can still come up over it and cover. Ferns and stuff like that won't be affected, but it will really blanket a beautiful white flower in the spring. For more sunny areas, there's a ton of really, really cool ground cover sedums that are on the market now. Lots of different colors and variations. Dragon's Blood sedum is a cool one that I've always liked. Blue Stonecrop and Angelina. Those are kind of the classics, but there's a lot of really cool ground cover sedums that are really tough, but again, they don't get that like woody kind of mat to them that makes it more difficult for perennials to interlace with them. And then, you know, I always love Pachysandra and Myrtle because they're evergreen. So when you don't have a big snow winter, you still have a lot of green out in the landscape and in the garden underneath some trees and stuff. They're really, really tough. They will handle zone 3 for you. And interplantings work in those ground covers as long as they are also tough. So they've got to have a little bit more woody kind of nature to them to be able to get up and get out of that tough woven ground cover. So we're talking, you know, some of the smaller panicle hydrangeas and stuff like that work great. Next question, what are some shrubs that grow in shade for northern Michigan? This guy lives in Alpena. He has, I know he has messaged us or looked for this question for a while and been really excited to talk with us. So can't remember your name, but Alpena is awesome, and I know you're up by us in Mackinac. So he's asking for shrubs that grow in shade in northern Michigan. I have some boxwood. They're a little formal for my landscape. I have not had good luck with azaleas or rhododendrons. I have oak leaf hydrangeas that are doing okay, but rarely flower. That's because those plants, azalea rhodies and oak leaf hydrangeas, damn bugs, are really more suited for, you know, zone 5, 6, a little further downstate in the Midwest. Up in northern Michigan, those are, you know, they're going to live, but they're not going to thrive. So in the hydrangea world, there are a lot of hydrangeas that are tougher and hardier than those. The mountain hydrangeas like Tough Stuff and Tiny Tough Stuff are awesome. Really been impressed with those, even as far north as we are. I did mention Quickfire. You said that you're going to try Quickfire. That's a great hydrangea. Little Quickfire is incredible. So is Bobo. Those are really bomber tough hydrangeas that do well in the shade. Other notes I have for you in the shade, a great plant that's really more of a perennial is Aurelia. Sun King Aurelia gets pretty big. You get some awesome chartreuse color out of it. So is Lemony Lace. That's an elderberry, but also does well in the shade, and you get some really contrasting cool color out of it. All of the Astilbes and Goat's Beard, Aruncus is Goat's Beard, great plants for shade. Brunera, Heuchera, Ligularia, obviously hostas and stuff and ferns are great, depending on the deer browsing that you may have there in Alpena. Another great shrub though that you should try for some part sun is double file viburnum. We've been using viburnums. You know, there's a lot of different viburnums on the market. There's a new one from Proven Winners called Wabi Sabi. Wabi Sabi is a smaller viburnum, and the double files are kind of cool. They've got like more architectural kind of branching and horizontal sort of growth habit. Really cool viburnum. So check out double file viburnums. And lastly, Sweet Spire is a native. Sweet Spire is a small shrub with like little bottle brush kind of blooms on it. Really cool shrub that a lot of people don't really think about or go to, but that's a great shrub for sun or shade, native. And Little Henry is a new variety that's definitely one to check out. Another question that we got quite a few questions on is about deer, asking about a quick like go-to list of deer-resistant plants, shrubs, perennials, annuals, you know, that deer aren't really as likely to browse on. We're going to put a link below for this great article from Garden Design. Our friends at Garden Design have lots of great articles all the time. This one is specifically about deer-proof plants, so check that out. And from there's a lot of links in that article that'll give you a lot of good insight onto plants for deer. Lastly, we have some miscellaneous questions now that we're going to dive into, just a few, and then we'll wrap up our Q&A here today. One was, what's my favorite smart irrigation controller? Irrigation is key, very important. Get some irrigation on all your plants, absolutely. But Hunter is my go-to for sure across the board. Hunter is a great company, great quality, very intuitive, simple controllers, and they seem to last and work the best for us. So we use Hunter Pro Cs very often for smaller systems, and on up from there. But that's our brand go-to. Another question was, any advice for a future landscape architect? My number one piece of advice for any landscape architect, garden designer, landscape designer is get out in the field and work. Start at the bottom, work your way up, put in at least 5 to 10 years of work in the field with a good landscape company, and get out there and work with the guys, work with crews, work your way up, become a foreman, and learn all aspects of landscape. Planting trees, shrubs, perennials, designing, hardscape, irrigation, lighting, you name it, but learn them, learn how to do them and what it takes to do those things and install those elements, because when you are designing landscapes, you will know what is possible, what you're dealing with in that locality. When you go and interview a landscape contractor to install a project for your clients, you'll be able to know what they're capable of, what kind of materials are available locally so that your design is realistic. So get experience in the field. I can't drive that home enough. There's a lot of people that, I meet them all the time. They're just going through school. They want to take the layer, the test, and become a landscape architect or become a landscape designer, but they really have no experience in the field. You've got to put in the grind. You've got to get that experience in the field so that you can communicate, you can talk the talk with these guys that are in the field installing these landscapes, and your projects will turn out 10 times better. So that's number one advice for sure. Lastly, the last question that we got that was really interesting, I really dove into this one. It was about gypsum and what does gypsum do for soil. And I hadn't had a lot of experience using gypsum as an additive, so I really looked into this one a little bit. It does change the pH slightly, but it's really not a factor in pH change. It adds calcium and sulfur, making those nutrients much more readily available to plants, which are key ingredients for plants. But most importantly, it actually cuts down on the phosphorus movement out of the soil structure. So phosphorus moving out of the soil rapidly can be very bad for our lakes and rivers and streams. So it holds phosphorus in the soil so that plants can uptake and use that phosphorus while it's there. So gypsum has some great qualities in that regard. And a lot of the agricultural gypsum is actually a byproduct of coal power plants, which is really fascinating. So the flue gas desulfurization is a process that creates this desulfurization gypsum. As they scrub the big, huge smokestack flues, the byproduct sulfur is then they're able to create this agricultural gypsum. Obviously, that process is to reduce air pollution. And then the byproduct of it is been very beneficial. So it's a really great kind of win-win for the environment while scrubbing and cleaning up some coal power plants in the process. It's been proven very safe and beneficial for soil as an additive, improving yields in farm production and garden production and bloom production and stuff. But most importantly, soil structure and soil conditions. So I am a big time advocate for making sure that your soil is a living, breathing, part of your garden environment, and making sure that your soil is extremely healthy. So feed your soil, use a lot of great compost. Gypsum is a great additive, obviously, so I'm going to look more into that and play around with that this summer up on Mackinac. So thanks so much for that question, because I spent some time researching that and that was a lot of fun. Keep the questions coming though. So that's it for this month. I've got to get up to Mackinac, so we'll see you guys soon on the next video and all that stuff. Keep your questions coming all month, and we'll do this again in a month. All right, see you guys. Thanks. Bye.